We have discussed so many times what happens with the glucose and why is that so important in the cell, but we did not point out what would happen if we eat, for example, other macromolecules besides the glucose. So, although glucose is considered to be the primary source of sugar for respiration and fermentation, ATP is also generated by using carbohydrates, macromolecules, fats, as well as proteins. But let's focus first on, again, as review for the cellular respiration. In the glycolysis, well, I should have just wrote glucose over there, and the whole thing is the glycolysis turns into an intermediate molecule, the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Don't worry about that, I just wanted to say it's an intermediate molecule and turns into pyruvate, 2 pyruvates from 1 glucose. This whole thing happens in the cytoplasm and yields 2 ATP for the cell. The pyruvate will go through a kind of a grooming or fixing the pyruvate into acetyl coenzyme A, and it will be able to get into the mitochondria where the cellular respiration, the majority of the cellular respiration happens. So we are here, the acetyl-CoA, as the pyruvate turns into acetyl-CoA, will give off 1 carbon dioxide per pyruvate. As we move on, we are still in the mitochondria, and the rest of the time will be the citric acid cycle, and in the citric acid cycle also we will yield to us 2 ATP. So it's not that much, but what is really the point of the citric acid? To have high energy electron carriers, the NADHs. So that is really the point, to form those. So 2 ATPs, and I forgot to write at this point that carbon dioxide will leave the system too, 2 of them, but later on I will write it down close to the end. So after the citric acid cycle, we go to the oxidative phosphorylation that contains the electron transport chain as well as the chemiosmosis. And this is the big ATP energy production place 32 ATPs altogether. So this whole thing was in the mitochondrion. The end product of the oxidative phosphorylation will be the water. So please keep it in your mind. The oxygen is the final electrotransporter. Why is the oxygen? Because it has great electronegativity, great affinity towards the electrons to pick it up. So these are the end products. Well, in this case, the water. So when we eat carbohydrates, we don't really eat glucose all the time as a molecule. We eat sucrose, lactose, glycogen, as well as starch. And enzymes in the body, especially in the intestines, they break down those macromolecules into smaller chunks, disaccharides or even monosaccharides, and they will be able to get absorbed into the bloodstream and go to the cells. So this is kind of almost straightforward. The other one is we eat also proteins like meat or nuts or milk, and the protein content will break down, the macromolecule will break down into its building blocks, the amino acids, and amino acids with the help of enzymes can join the cell respiration at the pyruvate section or at the acetyl-CoA section, as well as the citric acid cycle. They can form those molecules, the enzymes. Definitely the nitrogen content will leave the body through urea, what is not used. So this is for the proteins. And we also eat fats. If you drink half and half or eat butter, so you have the fat. The fat is made up of glycerol as well as fatty acid. For the glycerol, it's kind of it's easy to get into the glycolysis as an intermediate material with the help of enzymes. And the fatty acid will join the acetyl-CoA, will get into the cycle as acetyl-CoA. And what I wanted to tell you that also, so most extra energy in the human body is stored as fat and not sugar and protein. The same mass of fat stores nearly twice as many calories, it's 9 kilocalories per gram, as an equivalent mass of protein and carbohydrates. So we will talk about